challenge to us. What is Kenya's competitive advantage? How can Kenya find its position within this ecosystem that is the mining sector and thrive and run with it? And so in today's panel discussion, where we will be looking at how do we create an enabling environment for mining investment through geological data, policy certainty, and business reforms, we will dive into looking at how we demystify data accessibility, geological data that is, evaluating policy reforms, defining state participation, as well as how do we gain the social license to operate as investors and ensure that we have shared value within the mining sector. So without further ado, I will welcome my panelists. Mr. Thomas Mutwiwa, who is the Secretary for Mines, please join us. Give him a hand. Mr. Enoch Kipseba, who is the Secretary, Geology Survey, and Engineer Joseph Kitilit, who is the CEO of the National Mining Corporation. Mr. Davis Malombe, the Executive Director for Kenya Human Rights Commission. If you're here, please also join us. All right, so to kick us off, I will start with Mr. Kipseba. And there's been a lot, in many forums we're in many conferences, we keep talking about the National Airborne Geophysical Survey that was taken a few years ago, and that, the survey shows over 900 anomalies. And maybe, Mr. Kipseba, you can elucidate to us if this data is sufficient to inform investments on mining, and if so, how does one go about to access this data without too much bureaucracy?
Thank you, Michelle. On the airborne geophysical data, let me just give a brief of what we did to acquire that data. The data is high resolution, and we used two sensors, that is radiometric and magnetic sensors. So the data is composed of the two components, magnetic and radiometric. The data is not yet available. We are working on modalities and protocols for sharing the data, because the government used a lot of money. It's a big investment, and that will give us enough information on top of what we already had. This data, this airborne data, is not the first geological data that we have. We have a lot of the legacy data that we generated since before independence. That data comprises geological reports, memoirs, even geological maps. We have over 120 reports in our archive. And therefore, the next data is there to complement the legacy data that we already have. And this next data, when I said high resolution, it was done, the aircraft was flying at 80 meters above the ground. And the lines that were being flown have a width of a spacing of 200 meters. So that's actually high resolution data. And by doing some preliminary analysis before we release the data to the public, we got to find out that we have about 970 anomalies from that preliminary analysis. These 970 anomalies, we already started, as a government, we already started doing some ground truthing, as you heard from our CS and PS yesterday. And to do these anomalies, or to do surveys on these anomalies, we are prioritizing and also looking at the global trends. Now everybody is going for the green minerals or the energy transition minerals. So we are looking at several factors and prioritizing the exploration. And from those, we find that we are already progressing. We did reconnaissance, ground truthing for 22 counties. And I believe we already got enough information. So on access, I had said earlier that we are looking at the protocols for sharing the data. Thank you.
Okay, so I guess there's still quite a bit of work that is undergoing, and perhaps as we walk this journey of developing the sector, then that is something that I think the government could fast track because it's one way of really unlocking a lot more investment interest within the country. So now maybe moving to you, Secretary Mutuiwa. The last year or so has seen quite a number of policy changes. I think there's the Mining Act Amendment Bill 2025. We've had quite a number of regulations coming into force. Are you able to maybe highlight some of the critical legislative changes that are currently ongoing, and if these changes are going to enhance the sector? And by the sector, I mean all levels, at the large scale level, artisanal and small scale level, and even the dealership rights that are within the Mining Act.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Moderator. Yes, I think I can say indeed the last one here, there is the bill that is already in the Senate that seeks to amend the Mining Act 2016. But then again, a lot has happened, and I think that bill has been overtaken by events. Remember when Waziri was here, he said that we have enacted, or we have acceded to the regulations on royalty management. And what that bill in Senate seeks to do is to propose a framework in terms of how royalties are shared. But then again, the bill that has already been, the regulation that has already been enacted, the mineral royalty regulation has already been acceded into, puts in place mechanisms and framework, and even the structures to share the royalties, particularly the 10% royalties that should go to the communities. In terms of efficiency, in terms of licensing, I think you are seeing all of us here, and there is a new, working environment that seeks to really listen to the normal mwananchi, our miners, and we're also getting down into mashinani and listening and solving issues around licensing. Again, remember Waziri and the PS, they said we have already actually deployed our county mining officers who are assisting us in mashinani, or where the miners are, to make sure this licensing space is actually efficient and is working. We have put in place over 40 artisanal mining committees who are supposed to license the artisanal miners. And in the next couple of months, we should see the artisanal mining permits, coming into effect. We are also licensing the leaching plants and the elution plants. We have licensed. We have so many licenses. Some of them, even in my office, they have not been collected. Moderator. Then again, on large-scale space, where Shanda and Sebit and Grupu are here, We are working a step further with them so that they get the social license, which at some times becomes difficult because communities want also their share of benefits, which of course is their right. But then again, we have to let the investor also come into the country and work out their license and the operations and all that. In the quarry sector, which was not formalized before, we have actually brought it into the fold, and I can tell you, moderator, we have given out so many licenses around the quarry subsector. In summary, I think the environment is changed. We are there to work with the miners. We want to assist them. If anyone has an issue, we are open to discussion. You can just walk into my office, walk into Mandini, walk into the director's office. You can walk to the PS office and even CS office. Yes, we are open for investment in Kenya and licensing. Thank you.
I think while I still have you, maybe to ask, and for the benefit of the potential investors in the room, what is the lead time to getting a license in Kenya? From, in case someone has met all the requirements that are stipulated under the law, what timeline should they look at before they get their license?
Thank you for that question. I will not put like 1 month or 2 months, but I will say you have to fit into, the investors to fit into the procedural timelines, because there are procedures that we have in the Act. First of all, you have to register on the online mining cadastre as an engine. Then you put in your documents, and these documents will be checked over in terms of whether they meet the requirements for licensing by the technical committee. And then from the technical committee, it will be taken to the Mineral Rights Board. It will be, discussed. Then from there, it will be forwarded through the PS to Waziri. And if it is a mining license, it has to be publicized, gazette notice, 42 days. If it is a prospecting license, 21 days. And therefore, you can see there's a bit of a lead time before the license is issued. And we are saying, at least for a mining license, by at least from the time of application, 4 months or 3 months, you should have your license. Thank you.
Right, thank you for that contribution. Now, Engineer Kitilit, perhaps you could start us off by setting out the role of the National Mining Corporation. I think in the past and within the sector, there has been a feeling that Namiko is somewhat a competitor as opposed to a partner. And so perhaps you could demystify what the role of Namiko is, and then we could move forward from there.
Thank you, Michelle, for that question. First of all, I want to say that as Namiko, we do not see ourselves as a competitor to the investors. We rather see ourselves as facilitators for investment. Our job under the Mining Act is to be the investment arm of government. And to do that, our job is to enable investors, to facilitate them, to attract capital to the country so that our mineral sector is properly developed. Now, our focus as Namiko is basically to build partnerships and attract development of minerals by the private sector. And we are talking about minerals of national interest, and therefore that is what we do. Now, we do this through reducing the upfront risk that is associated with the development of minerals. It's been mentioned here before that minerals development is not easy, it's not cheap, it's not, it's very costly. And part of it is the initial capital outlay that goes into preparing the project. Namiko facilitates that through many ways. Number one is that for those who are interested in developing critical minerals, we give the letter of no objection, because that is development of strategic minerals is the mandate of Namiko. And we also enter into MOUs so that we can facilitate these investors to be able to do their applications. The applications will go through the system that has already been explained by the Secretary Mines. And that document is important. So far, out of that process, we have been able to sign over 40 MOUs, and I can assure you many of the investors have actually been able to take their applications through, and some of them have actually been issued with a license, and therefore that is the facilitation we do. The other way that we do it is that we go into structured JVs. By structured JVs, I mean depending on the requirement of the partner, we can structure joint venture agreements to develop a certain mineral, or to enter into an agreement to do part of the work to assist the investor, especially the works that come before you do the application. For example, we assist many investors in engaging the local community. We coordinate government agencies. We facilitate compliance. And with all that, you're able to make your investment entry very easy. We also, as an agency, promote and support value addition. There are those investors that come in for purposes of processing and refining. And we come in to assist in compliance, in structuring those agreements and JVs, so that we are able to take to comply to the policy of processing our minerals and not taking it from the pit to the port raw. We also, as I said, we coordinate government agencies. We also do our own geological survey, make data available, and therefore remove that requirement of an investor going to invest and put in a lot of money in undertaking scientific survey. So you can come to us and we tell you some of the projects that we have undertaken, those surveys, and we have information, we have the data, then we can improve on that. Probably just go straight to exploration drilling, and that makes the work easier and reduces the cost. So in a nutshell, what we're saying is Namiko is looking at collaboration rather than competing with the investors, and we do this through the structured PPPs. The JV models are many. You can enter through. You can do a JV for geological survey. You can do a JV for exploration drilling. You can do a JV for processing, and all that space that is available within the mining ecosystem. And therefore, our work is basically to attract capital rather than actually crowd out the investors. And I think that's how I would say it for now. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen. I think while we could go on and on with the questions here, I'd like to open up the floor, because I know that's where the real questions are. These three gentlemen sit in very pertinent positions that affect your day-to-day operations. So I know it had been announced that there'll be another session after lunch, but I'd really like to just allow, while we have these people here, a number of questions to them.
Check.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I have like 2 questions. And these 2 questions, yes, these 2 questions actually come from yesterday's presentation from the CS. It is unfortunate that he's not around. Number 1, from yesterday's presentation, and I have heard my good friend Mr. Mutu have said about licensing. My question is a bottom-up question. The CS did mention that the ministry, especially himself, he has done enough. He has gazetted the 42 artisanal mining committees. If you look at the act, the current act, it is more of a CSR. And the only work for the artisanal mining committees to advise. Being that there is no single license that has been issued, what is the CS doing about this? Because if it's not advised accordingly from his officers on the ground, then he as the CS, what is he doing about this? Is it that he does not have the prominent officers on the ground, or why have we not had the single license across the country? Number two goes to the banks. I heard the presentation from the equity guys. Yesterday I did interact with the guys from the KCB. The KCB guys that have been coming on the ground, and we normally take them to our sites. The question they normally ask is, when are you being given your license so that we can engage? Now that they are here and the ministry is here, we want to start engaging with you directly. Can we get this answer appropriately so that when we go back to the ground, then it is not a matter of when are you doing this? The last one. We have been taking our small money to deposit at the financial institutions. But the moment you walk in with your shelling of $1 million, then you are supposed to actually, you are being asked so many questions. Where do you get it from? Do you have a license? Who are you? How can we know that you are a miner? Can we direct this question to the ministry themselves, being that they are here? How I wish that the minister himself was here. Thank you.
Thank you. I think before the next hand, kindly let's have only one question. Number 2, let's ask questions directed to these 3 gentlemen. I think the rest of the people are around and you can reach them for those particular questions. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kirago Moneki. Allow me to speak like an African because I'm one, and allow me to speak about Africa because I'm African. If we walk out through these doors without mentioning and addressing corruption, we'll be like those parents who don't discipline their kids because they love them so much. We have had some instances where investors back off, all withdraw their plans, investment plans, because some politician somewhere bought some cut or some share from the investment. This has happened severally, and if some of the investors in this hall open up, that is how now you'll know the real truth. When the politicians, now politicians come in mostly during public participation. That is where they make things difficult. They'll go and advise the locals that this kind of mining will bring this to you, just resist. The other issue is, at a point, we are seeing that, or rather, from a different angle, we view as the government is also assisting on this. Why? I think someone mentioned about the Community Development Agreement Committee that is supposed to be, is supposed to deal with the Community Development Authority Fund. That committee is a 14-member committee. And 2 of the members, one has to be a local, the local area MP, and the local member of county assembly. We all know what happens when politicians get close to our money. So how do we shield investors from this kind of exploitation? Thank you.
All right, thank you. I think some of your questions will be addressed in the right after lunch, because we'll have the questions for politicians to go to the minister. He should be here. All right. So like she has said, let's have one question, make it brief, and let it be directed to the gentleman on stage so that we don't get caught up with time.
My name is Ali Masemo. My question goes to Mr. Thomas. We've seen a number of mining companies in Kenya having what we call community development agreement committees. I was asking, we have a number of mining companies in Kenya which have CDAC, community development agreement committees. But I understand there are some companies, big companies, particularly from Coast. I don't want to name any company. Maybe that's an assignment for you, which do not have CDAC. And the communities around have been complaining, raising questions, writing to the ministry. But to date, as we speak, those companies do not have CDAC. What is the ministry doing about it? Thank you.
Thank you. We can take two quick ones, then we can close. We have a gentleman here.
Thank you so much. My name is Brian from the Kenya Chamber of Mines. My question is directed to geologist Mr. Kipseba. Thank you for the presentation about the area survey that was done. You did mention that the country is yet to be ready to share the data. And I know the moderator did ask a follow-up question on the timelines. Do you have an indicative timeline on when the protocols will be ready? And we as the industry are also interested to perhaps participate in, together with the ministry in developing those protocols so that we are moving together in quickly availing that information to the industry. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle.
Okay, so I think we could start with the secretary and then the rest of the questions.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I think I begin with the first question from my good friend Kefase on artisanal mining. Yes, we gazetted about over 40 artisanal mining committees. And the work of the artisanal mining committees is basically to, like the Mineral Rights Board, to go through the process of artisanal mining licensing. And the reason why maybe we don't have a single artisanal mining permit as of at now, we brought in the county mining officers who are actually the secretaries to the artisanal mining committees sometimes towards the end of last year. And again, a number of the officers who had been gazetted to sit into those artisanal mining committees, some of them had been transferred and there were a lot of changes. So we had to reconstitute the artisanal mining committees so that we begin afresh. Now that we are there and we are beginning afresh, the artisanal mining committees will work on the pending applications for artisanal mining licenses. And I can assure this audience, within, let's say, the next 6 months or so, we should see a couple of the artisanal mining licensing having been accomplished and done. I want to go to the question that came from, I think, Mwaniki, on the CDAC, the Community Development Agreement Committees, where politicians and the area members of parliament and the MCAs sit in that committee. Yes, indeed, this is guaranteed by the law. And the law went through what is called public participation. So the people of Kenya agreed to have the area member of parliament and the MCA within that area, which is affected by mining project, sit in the community development agreement. It is a very controlled process, even in terms of how much should go into the community development agreement. Because 1%, at least 1%, that was the law says, of the gross revenues from the company should go into that committee. And basically the work of the committee is to roll out social infrastructure, including health services, schools, bursaries, SMEs, and all that. So if we get right with the community development agreement committees, we should see a lot of development around the mining communities where licenses have been issued. And therefore, maybe we may not do much in terms of not having these politicians in the committees. We can only encourage a dialogue within the committee, which is fairly controlled in terms of how it manages the resources. Finally, I want to respond to Ali Masemo on the costs. Basically, the companies at the coast which have mining licenses, but they have not formed the community development agreement committees. I think that is really a very big oversight if that is happening, and I believe it is happening. There was a bit of a delay in terms of, compliance of those who had been given licenses, complying with the law, because the law says at least after having been given the license, 6 months after that, the CDAC should be in place. And we are following up. You asked what we are doing. Actually, we've done letters to these companies, most of them. We will not mention names of the companies, but we've done letters. And a number of complied, especially the ones from Taita and the quarries in Jaribuni, and most of the coastal, MLs, they have complied, and we are following up to make sure that this SEDAC, these committees are actually working and rolling out the projects that should roll out to the communities for the benefit of the mining communities. Thank you.
Thank you. I think somebody asked about the timelines for sharing the airborne geophysical data. Now, the exercise of acquiring that data was done by a multi-agency team, which comprises our ministry and other ministries. So what is happening? Our CS, of course, the data is geological, but since it was done by the multi-agency team, there are issues surrounding the data, like safety and security of the data. Another thing is maintaining the integrity of the data. So it has to be kept in a very safe place where it is secure, so that when it will be, the time will come for sharing it, it will still maintain that integrity. So at the moment, our CS, or the top level management of the ministry, is collaborating with the other members of the multi-agency team, so that those protocols, the procedure of preparing those protocols, which will involve even technical, legal, and the ministry which is looking at issues of data sharing, so that we can have a sitting together and be able to discuss those modalities and prepare the protocols. So that is the stage where we are at the moment. But the timelines are not really set. From the time that process will start, I think because it involves so many issues, the legal and several technicalities, it may take some time. But our leadership is doing the best to make sure the process is kick-started. Thank you.
I think I had forgotten something on public participation and complexities around the consent issue. And moderator, let me try to, answer that. But someone has actually talked about politicians, interfering with the whole process. Let me say this. The issue of obtaining consent is very well elaborated in the Mining Act. And we request our investors to get into the space of, trying to get the consents. But then again, the government takes a lead, and the government takes a lead in assisting the investors, especially the large-scale investors, where there are complexities. So the issue of politicians interfering, yes, the politician will do their work. But then again, it is the work of us, the technical people, to get out there and make sure this investment, which is this room, works. So what we are doing with Shanda, we are working with Shanda to assist them get to the ground and have the ground ready for them to work out. Sebit, of course, they were here at Teramin. We worked with them, and I think their work is well cut now. We have a number of mining licenses and applications that have had issues. And we have gone even to Kishushe and tried to untangle the issues around consents, and so that the investors can have their day and also their operations working. So yes, indeed, you will see the government, there with you as an investor. And yes, we are partners. So we will work together, and we will ensure that whatever complexities, whatever two issues are there, we sort them out. Thank you.
Nyakitilit, anything to add?
I would really don't have much to add, but maybe just to stress that as Namiko, we are here to facilitate. We are here to enable you put in money, your capital, and invest in Kenya and make the investment on minerals very attractive in this country. And therefore, I would want to call upon investors to consider Namiko an enabler and a facilitator and a strategic partner on mineral development. We shall work with you through the journey from the first day to the time when you will be happy and consider your investment profitable. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. And to close off the session, I think some of the sentiments we've gotten are that while the government is making quite some progress, I believe that we need to be able to fast-track certain things. For instance, the provision of this geological data, which forms the bedrock of any mining investment. We need to fast-track the operationalization of the ASM committees. We also need to shorten the lead time for which licenses are issued within this country. So thank you very much. Please make sure you accost them out there and ask them enough questions. I know there's quite a hands that we were not able to reach. Thank you very much and have a blessed day.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for that precise engagement. And as we keep going with the program, for the next few minutes, we shall get a presentation from Moses Michael Engadu, the Secretary General of Africa Mineral Strategy Group, and he'll be talking to us about redefining critical minerals, in Africa. Michael, welcome. And anybody will want to know Michael, you will not forget him. He dresses sharp. You can see him from far. Welcome, welcome. Oh, yes.
Good morning. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me ride on existing protocol. But before I start with regards to my presentation, which is on redefining critical minerals for Africa. I wanted to start by redefining the way GDP is measured and classified. And the good thing, we have the Secretary of Mining here. I would like you to work with the mineral economists as well as the other economists for us to actually understand the GDP measurement today is based on extractive mining. It's based on license fees, royalties, but it's not based on the value-led mining. So if you have limestone that is processed to become cement, who takes the value or the credit out of that contribution? Is it mining, or is it industry, or is it trade? So we need to revisit how we measure our GDP, because when we talk about 1%, I wonder if we are doing processing, if we are doing refining, if we are doing beneficiation, isn't that still the mining value chain? So these are the kind of conversations that I hope we are able to have today at our level. The Africa Mineral Strategy Group is a continental intergovernmental body for the cooperation in the minerals and mining sector. Our duty is to address this challenge that we've often had and the call that has been coming to us, which is we must be united. We must ensure our minerals benefit our people and benefit our countries. We must align our policies. We need to address the bottlenecks that have just been talked about in the previous panel. And we need to ensure that mining and the minerals of Africa are handled on our own terms. Across Africa, and I know in Kenya, we are told stories of the lion and the hyena. So one day, the lion, who is rightfully the strongest, most powerful, and king of the jungle, decided to leave its pride, left his family, and went on a hunt. It made a great hunt and captured an animal. But just before it was to feast and start to enjoy, the hyenas came. When the hyenas arrived, they are not stronger than the lion per se. They are not even wiser. But hyenas are organized, they are relentless, and they are opportunistic. And within a short while, they took away the hunt that the lion had. And the lion simply remained watching. Ladies and gentlemen, that lion is Kenya. That lion is Africa. We are blessed with great mineral resources. We are very powerful in potential. We have had the geological data. We had His Excellency the President, the ministers. They are also talking about all the 32 critical minerals that are needed in Africa. So it is time for Kenya, it is time for Africa to no longer be the lion that watches, but the lion that leads. Because we are living in a world that has changed. Today's world is driven by 3 critical transformations which are irreversible. We know of the energy transition, the digital evolution. Today in this room, if I said, everybody put up your phone, I bet you all of us here have mobile phones. That revolution is powered through minerals. And the third revolution is the transconfiguration of defense technologies. What is of interest to all of us here today is that at the center of this transformation lies critical minerals. Ladies and gentlemen, the new currency of global power is critical minerals. And we have understood indispensably that Africa is at the center of this global shift because we have more than 30% of the known or discovered mineral reserves in the world. But guess what? Only 20% of Africa's geology has been surveyed. So that means, what can we discover from the other 80%? Now, before we proceed with unlocking and tapping this opportunity, one of the most critical things we have to do as a continent is to define what critical minerals are. The global definition for critical minerals is built around the energy transition. It is built around the electric vehicles, the batteries, is built around all of the things. But for Africa, what is really important? I know we love the electric cars, we love to reduce the carbon. I always argue that our contribution to carbonization is very negligible, but our people are not going to drive electric cars in the most immediate future, not all of them at least. Our people are concerned about hunger, about food. So therefore, phosphate is a critical mineral for Africa. It is why when we start asking conversations such as critical for who, limestone is needed for every construction and infrastructure. Iron ore is needed for steel and aluminium. All of these things help us to define and say, as Africa, what matters to us. When we are approaching the conversations on the subject of critical minerals, we need to approach it from a perspective that minerals, critical minerals, must not only serve the world or power the world for that matter, they must power Africa's development. And these minerals must serve people, not just markets. It is for this reason that we must redefine the critical minerals, not just as commodities, but as strategic national assets. And these national assets are meant to be able to power not just our industries, our economies, but also the lives of our people. And we can only achieve this through beneficiation and value addition. Although we have 30% of the world's known reserves, Africa processes less than 10%. And when we go to manufacturing, it's less than 5%. This must change because value is not created in extraction. Real value that leads to mama mboga comes from refining, processing, and manufacturing, because she gets a chance to sell her little tomatoes to the people who are making industries, food, and all of those things. So when you process, when you refine, and when you manufacture, the value goes up more than 15 times. And I know it is what the bankers keep talking about when they want to evaluate what they are giving to us. But this is not only for Africa. Mineral value addition is actually a global issue because over 90% processing of critical minerals is done in one country. And all of you here possibly know that country. And this concentration, it's not efficiency. It is a serious vulnerability. One disruption, and the entire world is at its feet. Therefore, value addition is a matter of global survival and global security. Diversifying processing is no longer optional. It is simply essential for global stability. And this is where Africa comes in. This time not as a supplier, but as a strategic solution. Ladies and gentlemen, many times we talk about capital needs and all of those things. But Africa does not lack capital. What Africa lacks is structure. Yesterday we had a ministerial roundtable, Excellency and the ministers, and we discussed and came to a conclusion that to unlock investment, we do this through policy certainty, de-risking mechanisms, blended finance, value chain development, data and transparency, and strategic partnerships. We also looked at the new way of financing around offtake financing, mineral securitization, and tokenization of mineral assets. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the future will not be defined by those who own minerals, but it will be defined by those who structure, finance, and control their value. This is the reason why the Africa Mineral Strategy Group was established, to bring Africa together, to speak with one voice, to negotiate with one strategy, and to build value together. Because history has taught us that a divided Africa is one that is easily exploited. Before I conclude, I want to address something that we believe is equally important. Because beyond policy, beyond capital, beyond infrastructure, and in fact, there is another force that is shaping Africa's future. And that force is called narrative. What is presented about Africa determines a lot about how the world responds to Africa. Today, if you look at every media or foreign media, Africa is described with a very narrow lens: insecurity, very risky, there's policy uncertainty, there are governance concerns. We appreciate as a continent, and we've been very honest, these challenges exist. They exist everywhere anyway, but the narrative has become so disproportionate that it affects investment flows, it is affecting risk ratings, it is also affecting the cost of capital. Today, if a Kenyan company, the biggest here, went to borrow from Europe, because of the way Africa is rated, they'll probably get that at about 10%. Dangote recently got at 7.5%. A European company gets it at 3%. All of these things are built on perception, because perception becomes reality, especially when it comes to investments, capital markets, and banking. So the question really is, who should tell Africa's story? Should it be everybody else, or should it be all of us who are gathered here? Believe me, until a lion learns to write, the story will always glorify the hunter. I would like to invite all of us to join this effort to rethink and decide that Africa must tell its own story. Because if we do this, we will be able to tell a balanced story with responsibility and with confidence. I urge all of us to speak about Kenya, to speak about Somalia, to speak